Domestic abuse. Suicide. Bullying.
These are only some examples of intentional injuries. So join us as we learn more about what they are and understand more about how to prevent them before it is all too late.
The term intentional is used to refer to injuries resulting from purposeful human action, whether directed at oneself or others. Intentional injuries include self-inflicted and interpersonal acts of violence intended to cause harm. Some risk factors that have been linked to suicide and self-harm include mental illnesses, abuse or violence, loss, or even cultural and social background. According to the World Health Organization, suicide is one of the top 20 leading causes of death around the world for people of all ages, accounting for nearly 1 million deaths each year. Looking specifically at Canada, nearly 4,000 Canadians die by suicide each year, making suicide the leading cause of death for people aged 15 to 34 after accidental injuries.
These are the examples of intentional injuries. Suicide. Intentional taking of one's own life. Parasuicide. A suicide attempt in which a person does not intend to die. Domestic violence. An act that included physical assault, hitting, pushing, and shoving. Sexual abuse. Forced sexual activity and verbal abuse. Bullying. An unwanted aggressive behavior. The behavior is repeated or an overtime. Stalking. A pattern of behavior that makes you feel afraid, nervous, harassed, or in danger. It is when someone repeatedly contacts you and follows you.
Extortion. The act of using force or threats to force people to hand over their money or properties on favors. Extortion can happen usually outside or near schools. Gang. Defined as a relative tough, mostly street-based group of young people who regard themselves and may be seen by others as a group that engages in a range of criminal activity and violence. Hazing in fraternities. A group of people with similar backgrounds, occupations, interests, or taste. Kidnapping. Taking away or forcefully moving a person against his/her will and holding him or her in just captivity.
How to prevent intentional injuries. Intentional injuries. Because these injuries are intentional, they can be often preventable. Strategies for preventing intentional injuries. First, know how to protect yourself. Second, lock doors in home even when home. Third, if possible, remove yourself from situations that could lead you to violence. Fourth, know your support networks and where to get help. And lastly, fifth, learn self-defense. And those are strategies on how to prevent intentional injuries. Thank you.
The best way to prevent and control intentional injuries would be to shun violence and self-harm. Avoid suffering in silence. Seek help from trusted individuals and health professionals. In the end, it is your personal choice to live your life to the fullest and prevent this negative behavior to foster on your heart and mind. Life is short and must be valued. There is only one life to live. The gift of life is one to be grateful for.
Suicide is an emergency, but it can be prevented. Listen to someone. Call the NCMH Crisis Hotline. Here are the numbers of the service providers for the victims of Republic Act 9262 or Violence Against Women and Their Children Act of 2004. Just remember, if you ever need to call someone, make sure it's really for an emergency. Take a deep breath and just answer the questions the 911 operator will ask you.